What happens when Israel detects Hezbollah building missiles in Dahia in Beirut, for example, beyond the security zone? That's going to be the test. I don't think that Israel is going to accept that equation, come what may. So definitely watch Beirut very closely. What kind of government could be expected to say that to its own civilians? Imagine any country that you live in hearing a government say, I'm going to put your lives and your security and your homes in second place because we don't want to aggravate our allies. It's crazy. And so it's not going to happen. And it's crazy not only because it's a betrayal, if something like that ever happened, but also because it's a flawed calculation. Forget the emotions of this for a second and look at this logically. From Israel's calculus, any price that Israel would be asked to pay for pursuing its security interests, even the worst price you can imagine, arms embargoes and United Nations Security Council resolutions, let's take it to the most extreme. Those prices would still be far lower than the idea of allowing monstrous jihadist capabilities to return to our border and putting our population again at risks of massacres. These are existential threats. What is a bigger price to pay than an existential threat, than another October 7th, than a missile onslaught, than a nuclear program? And so it's not a real dilemma. It really isn't from an Israeli perspective. And so this is what the leadership yesterday here was saying. And I think that if we take them at their word, and I very much hope that's what's going to happen, we can flesh out how this is going to play out. In, first of all, Lebanon, because Lebanon is the arena that Iran is really trying to throw its weight around in and to prove that it is able to restrain Israel. So, first of all, the IDF not withdrawing from the security zone in southern Lebanon, we've already said that. Now, there are two more tests of this doctrine in Lebanon. The second test is what happens when Hezbollah attacks the IDF. Prime Minister Netanyahu was explicit, so was Defense Minister Katz yesterday. They were saying any attacks on the IDF will result in immediate counterattacks. We saw that happen today. Today, there were anti-tank missile incidents. There were rocket incidents. The IDF responded, eliminated terror operatives, eliminated the launchers. Okay, that's obvious. What happens when Israel detects Hezbollah building missiles in Dahia in Beirut, for example, beyond the security zone? That's going to be the test. That is going to be the test because Hezbollah will obviously try to take advantage of the idea that it has a zone of immunity, that Iran gave it to it as a gift. Dahia is off limits to Israel because the whole of the Iranian-American memorandum of understanding depends now on what Israel is going to do in Dahia. Ladies and gentlemen, if Israel accepts that equation, it's a huge, huge blow to its security. I don't think that Israel is going to accept that equation, come what may. So definitely watch Beirut very closely. Now, I should also say, and it's important to note that the Lebanese government has taken bold steps to try and basically reach a diplomatic solution with Israel and has publicly identified Iran and Hezbollah as the problem in Lebanon, as the warmongers, as the forces of evil. They have said it. And it's good that they say that, but words are not enough. Certainly not for the residents of northern Israel who have had to deal with these threats for so many years. And so until the Lebanese government proves that it's willing and able to fight Hezbollah and win, don't expect an Israeli withdrawal. They have to prove with action what they're saying. And until they do, I don't think it's realistic at all to expect the IDF to withdraw. Now, there's a side debate that's going on here in Israel amongst policymakers. Should we give Lebanon a chance? Should we try and encourage it to take control of territory? There's all these ideas of pilot schemes. And this is a separate topic. I think, it's something that I could dedicate another video to. But at the end of the day, the way things are looking right now, the Lebanese army is neither willing nor able to properly take on Hezbollah. We saw that it pretended to do this throughout the past 2 years. And when Hezbollah dragged the region back into war in March, when the Iranians gave it an order to get involved, something like 50% of the rockets that they fired at northern Israel came from an area south of the Litani River. If you look on a map, you will see that southern Lebanon is divided by the Litani River. And this is an area where the Lebanese army said that it cleared all the villages and all of the various cities and towns. They cleared it of Hezbollah's weapons. This was their claim. And yet 50% of all of the rockets and attacks that Israel faced since the 2nd of March, when Hezbollah got involved in this war, came from exactly the area where Lebanon claimed it cleared cleared it of weapons. So how much can we trust Lebanon's word? Not at all, unfortunately, not at this time. So let me say something positive as well, because there's also a debate going on. We should mark out what we would expect to see to give southern Lebanon to the control of the Lebanese army. What would we need to see in order to do that? Let's not just speak in negative terms. And I think that that's a fair comment. We should say that. So I would say, if I see the Lebanese army in Beirut, in the capital, take on Hezbollah and win, if I see them take control of their own capital, and if I see Hezbollah resisting and the Lebanese army going in and fighting them and winning, then I will turn around to our Lebanese partners in negotiations and say, this is very encouraging. If you can keep doing that, we have something to talk about in terms of establishing you, the Lebanese army, as the sovereign in southern Lebanon. Let's see that happen. Take control of your own capital, for God's sake. But they don't, because they're scared of a civil war, and they're scared that they're going to lose a civil war. And that's the real state of affairs in Lebanon. And until that changes, nobody should expect the IDF to withdraw. So I think that Lebanon is going to be a very, very important test. Now, look, this deal has very little to do with the Gaza Strip. I'm sure that Iran is going to try and look for ways to reestablish its proxy support system for Hamas. It's really going to struggle to do that. And also, Hamas, in the meantime, has found new benefactors, Qatar and Turkey, and Israel is going to have to work hard to make sure that they also don't get their claws into the Gaza Strip. That would be a huge mistake. But really, at the end of the day, I think that Gaza right now has sunk to the lowest priority because of the other two arenas that have been so demanding of Israel's resources and attention, and that is, of course, Iran and Hezbollah. And a final note on the situation in Judea and Samaria in the West Bank. This is an arena that's very easy to forget, but let me tell you, I've been talking to military officials about this arena, and there has been a concerted effort by Iran and Hamas to try and basically set this arena, Judea and Samaria, the West Bank, to set it ablaze, because they know that this is Israel's soft underbelly. If you look on a map, this is the closest to Israel's heartland and major cities, to greater Tel Aviv. And they have tried relentlessly to smuggle arms, both Iran and Hamas, from Jordan into this area. They have tried to create terror cells and amalgamate them into unified terror cells. Most of these efforts have failed. And one of the reasons that they failed is because Israel's new security doctrine, the same doctrine that I talked about being applied in southern Lebanon and Gaza, which is seizing territory from the jihadists and not leaving, we're seeing this applied in Samaria, in the northern West Bank, Jenin, a terrorist hornet's nest for years, since the Second Intifada. I can tell you that the IDF is planning on building a base there, and it has been there since January 2025, since it launched a massive operation called Iron Wall. Since that operation, and it seized the territory and it hasn't left, we've seen a 70% drop in terrorism. It's extremely dramatic, terrorist incidents. So you're seeing that the new security doctrine brings results, brings security, the seizing of territory, and then not withdrawing, but establishing these security zones all around Israel is one of the critical aspects of this doctrine, and I think we can expect it to be applied for a long time to come.